Council Transportation Committee for January 12th, 2026. Our first order of business, because we do this when we change locations, is the reading of the Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement. We're starting here at Robert Street, so we'll start with that. The Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is the ancestral homeland of the Dakota Ayote, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Ayote, the Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policies. These commitments support the Dakota Ayote, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the 7-county region home. And with that, we can go to the agenda. Did anyone have any changes or additions? Seeing none, we can move on to the next item, which is approval of the December 8th meeting minutes. Any changes or additions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the minutes are adopted. And now we will turn to employee recognition. I'll hand it to General Manager Kinderas.
Thank you, Chair Barber, council members. Today, we are excited to recognize 4 individuals who played leading roles delivering the Metro E-Line, which we successfully launched just over a month ago. Their work directly contributed to the service priority of Metro Transit Forward, which is part of our strategic framework, and is very much how we continue to improve our service and rebuild ridership. Before I hand it over for introductions, I just wanted to mention that the Metro E-Line is off to a really good start. Just an initial ridership analysis suggests that ridership on the E-Line and on Route 36 combined, and those are the 2 routes that replace the former Route 6, is roughly 20% higher than we would have expected for the same time on Route 6. So we're pleased to see that, and we'll obviously continue to track ridership and other signs of success as we move forward. But with the chair's permission, I'd like to hand it over to Katie Roth, our Director of Arterial Bus Rapid Transit, to do the introductions today.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair, council members. Thank you, Leslie. I'm Katie Roth, Director of Arterial BRT, and I am very, very honored to be here today to recognize the team that spent several years working on this project and warrant recognition both for their individual efforts, but I think much more so for how they work together as a team. These projects, as we know, really take a village to bring to operations. And while these 4 staff are just a few of the literally hundreds of council staff, contractors, and other folks who delivered the E-Line project, these 4 are deserving of recognition specifically for their sustained leadership over multiple years on this project. So coming from 3 different Metro Transit departments to form a project team, they each have had a really critical role in managing the construction contract, managing our public communications, managing our consultant team and design, and taking whole cloth ownership for the E-Line delivery. Their commitment was especially evident during construction when the project experienced delays from multiple causes and requiring the team to adapt and communicate those changes with the public. So throughout those challenges, this team put people first. They sought to provide the most accurate and timely information. They sought to resolve issues quickly in a dynamic and changing situation. And they kept the E-Line project moving forward to deliver these improvements for our customers. So I'll go down the line and recognize each of them here. So Evan Owens-Ambrosio began working on the E-Line in his very first week at Metro Transit in 2022, just over 4 years ago. And he led the design process from the 0% design up through project revenue service last month. Evan has been especially instrumental in ensuring involvement from all of the reviewers across Metro Transit in the development of project plans. And he's led the coordination with our agency project partners to respond to design issues that emerged during construction and delivered a great project. Next up, oh, you guys stood in order. This is great. I really appreciate it. Adam Smith moved into a leadership role on this project in the middle of 2023, and he very quickly established himself as highly organized, responsive, and people-focused. He has led the team's overall approach to managing completion of elements between the many contracts, many interagency agreements. He's been resolving and proactively addressing issues, maintaining clear public communication, and keeping the team overall focused on that successful project delivery. Eric Thompson was assigned to lead community outreach on this project in late 2022, shortly after joining Metro Transit. He spent time reconnecting with community and then getting ready for construction. And during construction, he has remained the constant face in community, attending regular meetings, holding office hours, and responding quickly to needs as they arose. And lastly, as the project entered construction in 2024, Ryan Fry joined the project team as the council's authorized representative, working to oversee all aspects of construction. Ryan established great working relationships with the contractor conducting the work, as well as other agencies leading the many independent construction projects impacting the delivery of the E-line. Through these relationships and construction oversight, the team was able to effectively complete construction to meet the revenue service date successfully. So again, what makes this group really stand out is the way they've coalesced together, working together and having each other's back. They've built a really high level of trust as a team that translates to what we strive to do in serving the public. And they really embody what it takes to come together for these complex projects. So I'm very highly honored to recognize them today.
Thank you. All right. Get you guys over here. Thank you. And if I would have thought I would have worn my scarf too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good job, everybody. Really good. And just thanks again for all the great work. We do really appreciate it. And it was so much fun to go out and celebrate with all of you opening of the E-line. So, all right, on to reports. And we'll start with MTS Executive Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, council members. Yet again, we find ourselves delivering our services in unprecedented and difficult times. I wanted to express my appreciation for the leadership of our staff in MTS, our colleagues at Metro Transit, and our partners in regional administration for coordination, for their actions, for their commitment to service that has resulted in minimal to no service disruption thus far over the last week. Their coordination, their actions, and their teamwork are the reason for that. And we're so appreciative for your support as we continue to deliver important services for the region on the contracted side, including Metro Mobility, Metro Move, our contracted fixed route, Metro Micro, and Transit Link. So thank you. I'll leave it there, but thank you for your ongoing support.
Thank you very much, Charles. Questions or comments? Councilmember Carter.
My question is here. I'm wondering, I know this is too big a question to ask, but what impacts have you noticed on our system in the past few weeks, just given the storm that we're kind of in right now?
Madam Chair, Councilmember, our impacts have been very brief and very localized. In the area of the federal building, it's been, we do provide service both in and around that area, mostly on Metro Mobility. Really, it's been around how traffic is either, there've been some ramp closures or very localized impacts, but we continue to deliver our services. We are delivering a civil right with Metro Mobility, and that service continues.
Additional questions, comments? All right, General Manager Kinderis.
Thank you, Chair Barber, council members. Mainly, I just wanted to echo Director Carlson's comments, just thanking all the staff across Metro Transit, MTS, regional administration, who have been part of closely monitoring and preparing to respond to any potential service impacts. Just a lot of really good work going on. And of course, we continue to monitor as we navigate this time. So with that, I don't have anything further.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, thank you both for your comments. We do really appreciate it, and you all do have our support, so thank you. All right, we don't have a TAC report tonight, so we'll move on then to the items on consent. There's 2 items on consent, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the items on consent are adopted. On to our first non-consent business. It's 2026-1 JT, which is the January special budget amendments. And we have Ruth Crow-Lane and Heather Giesel here.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Ruth Lane, Program Manager, Budget and Grants.
And good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I'm Heather Giesel, Director of Finance and Administration for Community Development and Metropolitan Transportation Services.
We are here to present business item 2026-1 JT, January budget amendment. I will present on Metro Transit capital and operating items, take questions, and then turn it over to Heather. So as far as we start out with the capital budget, we are doing a series of reallocating and closing different projects. These are predominantly shifts for federal funding from North Star capital projects to light rail projects with comparable scopes to ensure no loss of federal funding. And we're also moving some nominal North Star 100% local to bus replacement. And then as far as Green Line extension, the pan tilt zoom cameras are receiving federal funding now from LRT MISC maintenance. And these funds will be returned in the Q3 budget amendment when the federal grants are executed. And to add, all these projects already have funding in the 2026 CIP. And then as far as new funding, Barnes Line is receiving $1 million of sales tax for staffing and design, and again, approved in the CIP. And then on the operating budget items for Metro Transit, we're bringing in additional sales tax funds to bus operations due to the MBES forecast being lower than anticipated. And then we are shifting some TDM grant funding from MT to MTS to reflect some accounting changes, and reducing bus operation salary and fringes for North Star's budgeted staff costs that had been moved to bus operations initially during the budget process. But however, many of the North Star staff have been reallocated to already budgeted bus and light rail FTEs. Finally, we're performing a modal allocation transfer of the trip expenses to light rail based on the proportion of activity. So number of trip activities are actually going to light rail, about 70%. So we wanted to reflect that in the budget accordingly. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments so far? All right,
Okay.
Heather.
Transitioning over to the MTS portion of the amendment, first in the administrative adjustment section, there are 31 projects where we're either repurposing existing funding already in the ACP to complete the project or moving excess funds back to undesignated accounts for future use. Just as a reminder, there's no formal action for you to take on these adjustments, but we've included them for transparency and accounting purposes. Next, in the authorized new project section, MTS is requesting to bring into the ACP just over $26.5 million for a variety of projects that have been identified in our CIP, unless otherwise stated in the amendment. It includes $21.6 million in federal funds, $2 million, approximately $2 million in sales tax, and $2.9 million in regional funds, which are a combination of RTC and MVest. They include 15 council fixed route vehicle replacements and 16 replacement vehicles for the other regional providers. In the closing project section, staff have identified 26 projects totaling just over $58.7 million in our ACP that are fully expensed and can be closed. Moving over to the operating budget, so this amendment authorizes an increase to contracted services service provider expenses by $3 million due to a combination of increased service activity and new contract rates. Actual service provider expenses are currently unfavorable to in the 2025 budget, so we are moving these, increasing the authorization in the 2025 budget by $3 million. This increases the use of reserves to match actuals in the contracted services operating budget. Additionally, we have created new funds in the MTS contracted services budget. This is allowing for more detailed reporting. What we're doing in this amendment is just transferring from reserve funds so that we have money available in those new funds should expenses hit those funds. So it authorizes $1.3 million in reserves to be transferred from Metro Mobility to a new Metro Move fund, $1 million in reserves transferred from Transit Link to the Metro Micro Fund balance, and $150,000 in reserves transferred from fixed route to the new Van Pool Fund. In the pass-through program, the pass-through budget has been updated to reflect the new forecasted amounts for MVest and regional sales and use tax as a result of the November forecast, providing a decrease in forecasted MVest revenues and a slight increase in forecasted sales and use tax compared to the February forecast. Finally, as Ruth mentioned, the amendment recognizes a $2 million transfer from Metro Transit for the travel demand management pass-through expenses. It has a net zero impact on the transportation division budget overall, but does increase the MTS pass-through budget. So our requested action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the 2026 Unified Budget Amendment as indicated and in accordance with the attached tables. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2021 or 2026-1 JT. I'm sorry. Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you both. All right, on to our second non-consent item. It's business item 2026-7, which is review of the Metropolitan Airports Commission 2026 through 2032 Capital Improvement Plan or Program, and we have Joe Whiting here.
Greetings to Transportation Committee, Chair and members. I will, as Chair Barber noted, we will be reviewing the Metropolitan Airport Commission's 2026-2032 Airport Capital Improvement Program. And I'll go give a brief overview before moving to the requested action and any questions. I'll note Bridget Reef from the Metropolitan Airport Commission is with me as well to answer any questions as well that come up. So real quick, a refresher on the role of the Metropolitan Airports Commission and the Metropolitan Council as it relates to airport review. The Metropolitan Airports Commission is tasked with promoting aviation and competitive air service in the region, owns and operates 7 of our 9 regional public airports in the metro area, prepares airport long-term comprehensive plans, and also, as we're here today, annually prepares a capital improvement program to implement those planned improvements at MAC-owned airports. The Met Council, on the other side, is tasked to prepare the Regional Aviation System Plan, which I will be sticking around for the next item to look at that as well. Also to review Metro Airport community and comprehensive plans, including environmental studies, and then also finally to review MAC's capital improvement program, to review and approve any major capital improvement projects that have a significant effect on the orderly and economic development of the region. What is those significant effects? A refresher on what those look like on state law. So any projects in the CIP which are over $5 million at MSP and over $2 million at a reliever airport that have a potential for significant effects, which would meet one of the following criteria: a location of a new airport in the region, a new runway at an existing airport, a runway extension at an existing airport, any runway strengthening other than routine maintenance at an airport, any new or expanded passenger handling or parking facilities, which account for 25% more of a capacity increase, and any land acquisition associated with those other criteria, or any acquisition which would cause the relocation of any residential or business activities in the region. For the 2026 CIP, the staff analysis has concluded the following. This process included an adequate public participation process, including a public hearing held at the Planning, Development, and Environment Committee on November 3rd, and included also releasing the CIP for public comment from September to November 14th. It included also what's known as an assessment of environmental effects document, which has been completed and reviewed, which includes a review of all the capital improvement projects which may have environmental impacts. The plan identifies adequate funding to implement the identified projects. The CIP is consistent with the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan and the Aviation System Plan, and that there are no CIP projects which require both council review and approval for in 2026. 2026 is actually shaping up to be a quieter year for MAC than previous years, as we've seen some of these CIPs come through in the last couple of years. The overall budget for 2026 is $473 million at MSP and $28 million at the relievers, a quiet year for the airports. A majority of the 2026 projects are routine maintenance, equipment replacement, or multi-year projects, which we have seen in previous CIPs, which have been carrying over. Some notable projects in 2026 that you may see if you're going to the airport this year at any time. Post Road, which is just south of Terminal 1, will be reconstructed, which will include new bikeway facilities. 34th Avenue, which is what you go to the Terminal 2, is seeing a rehabilitation project to the 494 interchange. Terminal 2 will also see access roadway capacity enhancements, which will include an additional lane for pickup and drop-off. Terminal 1 will see some median and signage improvements as you enter the terminal from the highway. There will be an expansion and update of the EV charging network at the airport as well, taking place next year. Looking out to further years, so those years beyond 2026, the orange and purple ramp at Terminal 2 will be expanded in 2027. A new cargo development, so for cargo processing and handling, will be under construction in 2027 on the west side of the airfield. A replacement of the Energy Management Center will be conducted in 2027 and 2028. The green and gold parking ramps, those two large parking ramps at Terminal 1, will be demolished and replaced beginning in 2030. And then finally, the concourse and hub tram, so how you get to the airport from the transportation center or around Terminal 1, will be replaced as well in 2031. One project will require council approval in the future. That is the Air Lake Airport runway extension, which is scheduled for 2027. That project's been in environmental review for a couple of years, and so hopefully it'll be ready to go soon here. So with that said, the proposed action for the 2026-2032 Metropolitan Airports Commission is to find that the Metropolitan Airports Commission had an adequate public participation process for the development and review of its 2026-2032 capital improvement program, which include the preparation of an assessment of environmental effects for 2026 projects with potential environmental effects, and find that the 2026 CIP projects are in conformance with the region's aviation system plan and the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan and consistent with council policy. I'll open up to questions with that.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments?
One clarification, Joe. In the proposed action, we referenced 2025 projects. Should it actually reference 2026?
It should reference 2026.
I think is a correction we will make for the council meeting.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Chambliss.
Guess I'm being a little smart-alecky. Are we going to be getting those moving walkways with some of these improvements? I find myself going further and further to my destination, my gate destination.
I'll let Bridget maybe handle some of those specifics here. Personally, I'd like to get my steps in, but I understand and not want to walk too much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Bridget Rafe, Vice President for Planning and Development. Right now at Terminal 1, we are working on replacing 2 of the moving walks on Concourse G. Those will come back. And we have them on Concourse C. But I believe that is the extent. We are looking at, as part of the hub tram replacement, which is the lower level for parking, providing some moving walks and a corridor instead of just trams. For part of the future development. As we look at replacement for concourses E and F, which is well beyond 10 years at this point in time, it is possible we could look at moving walks, although we don't really have enough space to make a building wide enough for them, but it is a consideration.
Thank you so much.
Very good. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2026-7. Moved by Councilmember Cameron, second by Councilmember Abishakin. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And back to you.
And yes, I am back. So for our next item here, we're sticking with aviation for one more item here. This will be the consideration of Transportation Policy Plan Amendment Number 2, the Aviation System Plan Update. So the public comment report and adoption of the TPP Amendment 2 is being considered today. So over the past year and a half, council staff has begun the process of updating the aviation system plan in full. Prior to releasing the plan for public comments, the Met Council staff and support staff had worked to develop research papers for industry and technology trends in aviation, incorporated new airport long-term comprehensive plans, both for Flying Cloud Airport and MSP International Airport. We've seen the last couple of years here, and those have been incorporated in the document, and incorporated updated regional aviation data and forecasts, which stretch out to 2050 to match or imagine 2050. Staff also coordinated with regional partners from the aviation industry and impacted communities from aviation activity to review and update the regional aviation policies and actions to align those with Imagine 2050 goals and objectives to address any changes seen in the industry since a previous plan was adopted for the 2040 TPP. The 45-day public comment period was held from September 25th to November 10th. The public hearing was held at October 27th Transportation Committee meeting. If any of you were there, you remember there was no public comments, but there was one about the Blue Line extension, but that is not aviation. So we let her have her comment, but we didn't know that as a public comment for the aviation plan. We did receive 4 public comments via the public comment portal and email. 2 of those 4 comments focused on suggestions for air service changes at MSP Airport. Responses to those comments generally note that the aviation system plan is a policy and system document and does not make any recommendations or consider specific air carriers or air service at MSP Airport. However, the plan does include policy guidance to maximize the use of our regional resources and to ensure the regional airports are competitive and cost-effective for residents to travel both through the country and throughout the world. One comment related to access at MSP for both vehicle pickup and drop-off and transit access from the north suburbs. On the transit side, we have been forwarding those comments to our Metro Transit partners, but the response really here related to the comment focused on the plan improvements for both pickup and drop-off areas we're seeing at Terminal 2 in 2026 and furthermore at Terminal 1 in the future, and improved transit connections planned at MSP, including the Blue Line extension to the north suburbs, our new Woodbury service planned for Metro Transit, and additional other services being planned with Southwest Transit and MVTA. So there's more transit coming to MSP, and it's kind of being opened up as we go in the future here. Finally, one comment focused on what's known as sustainable aviation fuel, the advancement of that, and the need to ensure these fuel products are harvested in a sustainable manner, both in our state and also around the country. Responses comment focus mainly on the policy nature of the plan, which encourages the aviation industry to transition to low and eventually net zero emissions. And also the role of SAF, which has in this transition, but does not dictate how this transition takes place in detail, as again, this is a higher scale policy document. The public comment report included with this business item includes detailed responses to each comment, but further changes to the document based on these comments is not anticipated to be needed due to these comments received. The TPP Amendment 2 will replace the aviation section of the TPP in full with the attached updated system plan and the appendix item. So the proposed action has no funding or small business inclusion considerations as it's an update to a policy plan. And so the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council accept the 2050 TPP Amendment 2 public comment report and adopt the 2050 TPP Amendment 2, updating and replacing the 2050 aviation system plan. With that, I can open it up to any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2026-8.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And just a little side note, we will have our annual update from the MAC Executive Director and CEO on the 28th when we consider these items. So, on to our next item, which is business item 2026-9, adoption of the 2026 roadway safety performance targets. And we have Jed Hansen here.
Hello, council member and chair. I am going to do our annual presentation on where our region is on roadway safety. Thank you. All right, so this presentation covers our performance measurement program in general, the regulatory requirements specific to this measure, the methodology options that we considered, and an assessment of recent performance. All right, we're going to do this. So there are three buckets of measures, federal measures, state measures, and regional measures. The federal measures reflect federal priorities. They're narrower and they're specific to federal programs. They're required by statute or regulation, and they have more defined methods, reporting, and update cycles. There are also state and regional measures, so those state measures reflect statewide planning priorities and are specific to our state's systems, some required by law, some requiring annual reporting, and the regional measures are those largely defined in our regional plan. Oftentimes they do mirror these state and federal measures, sometimes they provide more detail, and we are required to update these before our long-range plan updates. For the federal measures, there are sets of measures for our roadway system and our transit system, and they span 4 areas: safety, asset management, reliability, and air quality. We are here today to discuss the roadway safety measures. They measure fatalities, serious injuries, and non-motorized fatal and serious injuries, and the rates for vehicle crashes on our roadways. And you hear this item often because this requires an annual adoption and reporting action each year. The other measures have different cycles. The other roadway measures, they are adopted every 4 years with a 2-year adjustment period. Currently, the air quality measures do not apply to our region since we are in attainment. And then the transit measures are more so prompted by transit provider actions as to when they need to be updated. So the purpose of the federal safety measures are to inform our planning and programming process so we can reduce fatal and serious injuries on our roadways. And they're also there to track the performance of the Highway Safety Improvement Program, a federal funding program for road safety improvements. Like I mentioned before, there are 5 measures. For the fatalities and serious injuries, we also include a measure of their rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. For MPOs, we have some specific requirements on how we set these. State DOTs also must set these measures, but they have a separate regulation that defines how those work. For our purposes, we need to set a target for each measure. We can either set metro-specific targets or we can agree to support the statewide targets that MnDOT and DPS adopt, and we must update these annually by February 27th. We are not assessed or penalized if we do not meet our targets. They are there for us to track our performance and adjust our plans as we desire. However, state departments of transportation, when they set their targets, it is setting them to a certain funding commitment. States, if they do not make significant progress on where they set their targets, they have to obligate their baseline highway safety improvement program apportionment in a specific way.
Sit down.
Thank you.
Just try it once. I want to make sure.
All right. So the purpose of these targets are to provide a summary level reactive assessment of our regional safety performance. They're here to inform conversations like this with policymakers on the general direction of our performance and for safety professionals and advocates to elevate the issue. The actual project selection processes, they use more detailed, specific measures to address safety in those investments. Those investments are the primary lever that we have as a metropolitan planning organization to affect safety outcomes. The region-wide targets do have somewhat limited applications in project implementation. They do not set requirements for our regional funding processes. I only bring this up because the focus today really shouldn't be how we set the measure, but what the outcome is. So you'll notice in your business item that we are changing how the safety performance targets are set. And we're doing that because the plans that inform the target setting methodology have been updated. For the past several years, we have been reducing the safety targets on a straight line from a baseline year towards a medium-term goal that MnDOT had set in the Minnesota Strategic Highway Safety Plan. That medium-term goal year was 2025. And so the short-term target we set last year matched our regional share of that medium-term statewide goal. When MnDOT updated that plan, they extended the same goal into 2030. And so continuing to base our targets off of that plan horizon would have held our targets flat for 5 years. There were some conversations about our target setting methodology several years back and a desire from some policy audiences to set a constantly declining target. So we evaluated another option where we shifted the planning basis of the target to the Imagine 2050 planning horizon. That plan does set an objective to eliminate deaths and serious injuries on our roadways, and it's easier to communicate that we're envisioning 0 by 2050, using that plan as that basis. When we screen these options with our technical audiences, so TAB's TAC Planning Committee and a selection of regional safety experts, both indicated that this is ultimately a policy choice, although there does appear to be a slight preference for shifting to the Imagine 2050 basis since it's clearer to communicate. So this table I won't detail here, it just reconveys the same option I did I explained in a side-by-side. But the main considerations here are the hold flat option would have maintained a tie to a statewide plan, whereas 0 by 2050 does continue to decline targets consistent with prior policy conversations, but it does widen the gap that we've seen between actual performance and target performance. So what do these targets look like when we do the math? So in this table, the first column there is the average performance over the prior 3 years. So each year we typically see about 159 fatalities on our roadways, 932 serious injuries, and 225 pedestrian and bicyclist deaths and serious injuries. Both of these calculation methods result in pretty similar targets. They're both about half of what our actual performance currently is. To convey this information visually, we have a series of line charts here. The black line represents the actual outcomes of crashes in our region. The gray line is the adopted target from previous years. The blue line is that hold flat option. And then the green line is the 0 by 2050 option. As you can see, we were getting close to our targets prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we saw that significant increase in fatal and serious injuries in 2021. And for fatalities, it has lightened a bit, but it still remains quite a bit above the pre-pandemic average. And both of these target setting options are pretty far from where we currently are, but to reach that goal by 2050, that's the trajectory we would need to be on. The story for serious injuries is a bit worse. We were in an improvement pattern prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and then we saw an increase, and it has plateaued and not started to decrease at this point. The same pattern is observed for bicyclist and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries. Those charts that I showed there only showed through 2024 because there is a little bit of lag between crash reporting and end of the calendar year. I do have some preliminary data through October 31st. This is only the 7-county metro, so this isn't exactly apples to apples with the previous slides. These measures also cover the urban portions of Wright and Sherburne County that are in our metropolitan planning area for transportation. In 2025, as of October 31st, there were 126 fatalities, which was an 8% decrease over 3 prior years, but it is 18% above the 3-year average prior to the pandemic. We had 804 serious injuries, which is a 1% increase over the prior 3 years and 20% above the pre-pandemic average, and 210 non-motorized fatal and serious injuries, which is 4% over the prior 3 years and 28% above the pre-pandemic average. When we monitor this crash data and report on it in our formal planning documents, we do disaggregate pedestrian and bicyclists and their respective fatal and serious injuries, but for the purposes of the federal measures, they're combined. Near term, this increase is mostly driven by worsening outcomes for pedestrians. Bicyclist outcomes in 2025 were better than recent averages. They're still above the pre-pandemic average, and it's 1 year of data. I can't really describe a trend off of that yet. MnDOT also provides us some trends by focus areas in the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. These aren't all of the focus areas, but these are the ones that had a significant trend worth highlighting. There was a decrease over the prior 5 years in attention-involved crashes, and there were increases in crashes that involved pedestrians, bicyclists, older drivers, intersections, head-on collisions, and train crossings.
Madam Chair,
Councilmember Johnson?
just ask a quick question on this slide. So what are the mitigating, do we get mitigating circumstances, or, was it weather, or, just the things, like what factors that can vary in this, that we might be able to capture some data on that put a little more context around it? Do we have anything like that?
Yes, there are some data reported in the state crash database. Weather is not one of the variables that we pull out in this type of report. One of them is like alcohol-involved crashes, for example. And I didn't include this on this slide because there wasn't a significant trend in that area. I can certainly provide that data. A lot of the times these crashes will have multiple contributing factors included on them. I don't have weather-related information to share. One thing that I do want to note on looking at this is we tend to look at those sorts of factors at like the intersection or roadway segment level rather than the region as a whole, since they're more so driven by the infrastructure and context on the ground rather than the aggregate sum.
Just one quick follow-up.
Councilmember Johnson?
What about e-bikes now that they're all over? Is there anything showing up on that at all?
Thank you.
So
Reading each other's minds.
the data that we report here is for crashes that involve a vehicle on a public roadway. So those pedestrian and bicyclist data I provided, those are crashes involving a pedestrian in a vehicle, a bicyclist in a vehicle. Crashes that are like bicycle to bicycle or a bicycle into a pedestrian are not reported in the same fashion, and there isn't as consistent data structures. There is some data in like CDC hospitalization data. Typically, it's fuzzed because there's so few of them that they can't report them without violating medical privacy.
Thank you.
Yep. Make sure, Councilmember, you.
Can I ask why, though? So, thank you, Chair. Can I ask why that's not been reported, the e-bikes? I mean, there is, I think one of my colleagues' region, I mean, it's an issue.
So the data that you see here, it's presented through a systematized, like standard reporting structure that DPS and MnDOT maintain to comply with federal requirements, and that local law enforcement departments are well trained in. E-bikes are an emerging issue that these regulatory frameworks really have not caught up to yet, so there isn't a standard reporting setup for this at this time.
All right, Councilmember Chambliss.
Thank you, Chair and Joe. I wanted to know about our plans to regionally coordinate with our partners. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to accomplish our goal of 0 deaths without their partnership. What is our strength in terms of partnership in helping the region get to our goals as far as reducing injuries and deaths?
Chair, I should jump back into the presentation because that might answer those questions.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. So the Imagine 2050 Transportation Policy Plan endorses this framework called the Safe System Approach. This is a framework promoted by the Federal Highway Administration that is a holistic model for addressing all of the factors that go into crash risk. For us as a metropolitan planning organization, our greatest area of influence are safe roads and as a connection to that, safer speeds. This is some people liken it to layers of Swiss cheese. There are numerous different points where failures occur for a fatal or serious injury crash to happen, and as many of those holes that we can fill, the better. And where we come in is mostly roadways. And we have been working on that through some recent planning efforts. The Regional Safety Action Plan concluded last year. This included 2 new planning tools, a crash risk index, which is a proactive identification of areas that may need intervention based off of their infrastructure and other characteristics, and a high injury streets identification, which identifies areas that have had a high incidence of fatal and serious injury crashes. We also are taking some of these findings and making changes to the regional solicitation through its 10-year evaluation process currently undergoing. This includes the creation of an entirely new safety category dedicated to safety issues, as well as new ways of measuring safety performance of projects in other non-safety specific categories. We also have a number of actions identified in the Transportation Policy Plan, not just for us, but for partners in the region to take to advance these safety outcomes. Some of those things the plan identified are those upcoming planning studies that are listed here. The Pedestrian Safety Action Plan had identified a higher incidence of pedestrian-involved crashes proximate to transit stops, which is possibly more so an indicator of pedestrian exposure to risk where there's higher pedestrian activities. But this study is building upon that and really honing in on that issue of why is this occurring and what can we do about that. We're also developing a pedestrian bicycle demand estimation tool, which will provide volume level estimates for planners so they can identify where we should be making pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure investments. And we're developing a complete streets local implementation guide, which will provide some illustrative starting point design guidance for streets around the region. So when our local partners are implementing complete streets projects, they're not starting from the basics. They have a roadmap to success. We're also evaluating how we add rural connections to the regional bicycle transportation network. There are some large areas of the region that are not receiving funding priority on the RBTN at the moment, and we're doing a evaluation this year to add those connections to that network and expand funding eligibility. Our partners are also the big part of this. When I come to the office every day, my way of influencing the safety outcomes are how can we direct money towards projects that will keep people safe and going home to their families. I don't get to actually design those projects. I am not a law enforcement officer who is working on this, but our local governments are really carrying the bulk of that work, and our state partners too. So MnDOT, they recently updated the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. And there's actually an error on this slide. 21 local governments were awarded Safe Streets and Roads for All grants. Some of these are capital grants, some of them are planning grants. It totals about $40 million in federal funds to the region. The most recent awards in there are Brooklyn Center and West St. Paul, Mounds View, that were just announced in the past few weeks. Minneapolis and Mendota Heights have seen some early success in their speed safety camera pilots. I can't characterize those today, but we might have a presentation on those in the future. And then we have the Minnesota Advisory Council on Traffic Safety, a newer group that the legislature convened that the Met Council participates on with local infrastructure partners, law enforcement, elected officials around the region. With that, I'll pause for any more questions. The proposed action is on your screen.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councilmember Pacheco.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members, it's if you look at the growth of the older driver, do you have a plan to address that? I mean, I see that it's only going to go up, the percentage of older drivers there, and there's got to be a better plan than taking away their license. Is there something to that?
I will say from my standpoint as someone who works at a metropolitan planning organization, what we can do best is work on streets that are safer for all to address that issue. From a policymaking standpoint, some of the more direct levers to that are probably legislative authorities.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick question earlier in your presentation. Why did the state decide to just hold over until 2030 their same standards? What was the rationale there?
I am not prepared to speak to that. I was not directly involved in the Strategic Highway Safety Plan update process. One thing I will comment on with safety performance targets is how we set them, the targets. The value in it is more so the conversation we have about setting them than where the exact value is. It's not a forecast of the outcomes. Like if we set the target at 0 today, that doesn't mean everyone survives a crash tomorrow. So I don't know the specific rationale, but I also think it's important that we not dwell on the target too much and we focus more on what we can do to make progress against it.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions or comments? Councilmember Carter?
Thank you. It's intriguing to see what happened, particularly in those post-COVID years, and to see the direction that we're headed in and the goals that we're setting, which don't quite jive together. Our goals, of course, and the policy we set in the budget, so we set our statement of our values. And with that question or that statement in mind, I am going to ask, and maybe this isn't the right setting for that response, but how we are seeing the federal government funding support these goals. And is that one of the reasons that perhaps their goals aren't changing for us, or the state goals aren't changing for the federal government reporting? And I'm wondering if funding has anything to do with their goals. And our funding clearly here at the region would correspond with what the state is providing to us as well. So I'm wondering how all of that works together. I'd like to see us hit those goals according to our 2050 plan, and that means going in the other direction than we're heading in most cases right now.
Chair, someone asked me this question at one of the previous meetings, so I do have an answer. So MnDOT, I do not think funding is a significant consideration in how they set their target, because the funding requirement that is tied to that target is they must allocate the entire baseline amount of their Highway Safety Improvement Program funding for safety projects exclusively. Some states choose to flex those funds to different purposes. MnDOT does not do that. And so it essentially has no effect on them.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that response.
Madam Chair, maybe I could just add, as Jed noted earlier, the regional solicitation is an important way that we direct federal funds to safer streets. The big change in this upcoming, soon to be released for public comment is the safety category, as you know, participating in the policy work group for that. So that's one way that the TAB and the council have really said we're going to focus on this goal for healthy and safe communities. We have a long way to go, but focusing that effort and safety-specific investment is one of those slices of the safe system pie that we're working to advance.
So we are focused here at the regional level. Our state is guiding all of those funds to us. And the federal, are there additional safety funds that come from the federal government? Is that last question?
Chair and council member, yes. So there are like two main sources of federal funding. You have the formula and discretionary, and the regional solicitation is how we allocate those flexible formula funds. There are a number of discretionary federal programs, and I would say the new council chair, Chair Hutchison, is kind of an expert in those, standing up with the Safe Streets and Roads for All program during her time at USDOT. There are programs like Safe Streets and Roads for All, BUILD, formerly known as, there's so many acronyms, RAISE and TIGER. It changes with each administration. That can be used for these purposes, and they're dependent on project sponsors, so those who build those projects, to apply for them. And our region has had good track record historically receiving those grants.
Thank you.
Director Carlson?
Madam Chair, to that, I would just add that 2026 is a very important year on the federal level. The Surface Transportation Bill is due for reauthorization. The programs have been funded at the level authorized thus far, for the most part. But that authorization for the bill that was passed in, I think, November of 2021 is due for reauthorization. So this will be an important year in terms of what the next 5 years look like and the tone that sets for the 5 years and the 5 years and the 5 years beyond, as these authorization bills tend to build on each other. There is direction change, but it's an important year for what the federal government does, setting the tone for the subsequent years.
Thank you very much.
All right, additional questions, comments? All right, I will just say I appreciate the option B of aligning things with the transportation policy plan. We put a lot of work into the transportation policy plan and the regional development guide. Really have been leaning into the regional goals. We're trying to do that with the regional solicitation as well. And so these things pair up very well. So I really appreciate taking a broader look at this and looking at a different way to approach it. All right, final call, any questions? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2026-9.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there a second? Second. By Councilmember Oisakin. And is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to business item. We have 2026-13 and 2026-14, both associated with bus procurements. And we have Jody Jansen here. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. Today, I'm presenting business item 2026-13 for the procurement of 2 replacement 60-foot articulated buses to be used to be used in Maple Grove. The procurement of these 2 buses will align with the capital improvement plan contingent upon approval of business item 2026-1JT, which Heather presented on earlier today. Purchase of these 2 buses will allow Maple Grove to continue maintaining a state of good repair, and these buses will be replaced buses that will exceed their useful life in 2026. These buses are in the capital improvement plan, and we will use federal and local funds. That same thing, that full funding is contingent on that business item 2026-1JT. So my proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P339 with New Flyer NFI to exercise purchase options utilizing the state of Washington's master contract for 2 replacement 60-foot articulated buses in an amount not to exceed $2.2 million.
Thank you. Questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve business item 2026-13.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Canvas. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Back to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. I will also present business item 2026-14. This is for the procurement of 19 replacement heavy-duty buses. Purchase of these buses will allow the operating agencies to maintain a state of good repair for their fleets. 19 heavy-duty buses will replace buses that have already exceeded or that will exceed their useful life in 2026. Of the 19, 3 of them are 30-foot Gillig buses for MVTA, 6 40-foot Gillig buses for Plymouth, and 10 35-foot Gillig buses for MTS. The purchase of the 10 buses for MTS will support service expansions identified through Network Now. 3 buses for MVTA will support fixed route services, and 6 buses for Plymouth will support fixed route and express services. These buses are in the capital improvement plan and will use federal and local funds. Full funding is contingent upon capital amendment business item 2026-1JT. Buses for MVTA and Plymouth are the last buses planned for purchase through the previous transit capital funding framework. So my proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P341 with Gillig LLC to exercise purchase options utilizing the state of Washington's master contract 06719 for 19 replacement heavy-duty buses of various sizes in an amount not to exceed $15.8 million.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Tyrone Carter.
Yeah, my question is, what is the benefit of a heavy-duty bus? I mean, it seems obvious, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, so these buses are used in services where a cutaway bus, so a small bus wouldn't work either for just the type of service that it is, maybe capacity. So these are replacing buses, these are replacing systems that already are set up using the heavy-duty buses.
Okay.
All right, additional questions, comments? All right, seeing none, entertain a motion to approve business item 2026-14.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, that ends our business items for the evening. And if there's no objection, I would say the first item, obviously the budget one, would go non-consent. And the transportation policy plan amendment would go non-consent, but the rest can go on the consent agenda. All right. All right, we're good. All right, so now on to our information item. We have the household travel survey. We have Dennis Farmer here to present. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Dennis Farmer, and I'm the manager of the travel modeling team in MTS, our Metropolitan Transportation Services Planning. I'm here to present today on the 2026 Household Travel Survey, which we have named Our Daily Trips. The project manager for this is Jonathan Ehrlich, and he's a senior manager who leads the MTS research team. But unfortunately, he is in Washington, D.C. at the moment at the Transportation Research Board, so he is unable to present today. But I'm part of that team, and I'm going to present on it and try and answer any questions you have. Any questions I can't answer, we'll go ahead and make sure to contact Jonathan. He's a phone call away, so we can follow up with you. There is a timeliness to this presentation in that this survey is going to be going out to the public shortly. So we want to keep you informed about this project, what we're doing, and also give you some information in case you get comments or questions from residents who receive the survey and want to know what it's about. We'll also let you know who to contact if you want to follow up and get information if you do get questions. So, let's make it.
Use the mouse, Dennis.
Say again?
The mouse, there you go.
Okay. Oh boy. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jenna. I'm going to start with a brief overview of the project. The study surveys households across the region to ask them about their daily travel patterns. We also ask households about some of the demographics or characteristics of their household to better understand how these demographic characteristics affect their daily travel needs. For instance, earlier there was mention of the fact that our population is aging. We're having a greater percentage of folks entering retirement age or beyond, and demographers have told us that that's just going to continue into the future. So we also know that some of these changes affect how people travel, where they go, and what they need out of our system. So by asking these demographic questions about the age of travelers or other characteristics, we are able to see how travel behavior changes with those characteristics and better plan and meet people's needs in the future as our region changes. This information that we get from the travel survey is important to us as long-range planners. It helps us to see emerging trends. We use it to help build some of the forecasting tools we use to forecast how the transportation system and what people experience is going to change in the future. We also use this to help conduct performance measures that help us see how well our transportation system is meeting the needs of people. So the survey includes the 7-county metropolitan area, but we also acknowledge that the travel of people just outside the region affects us, and how we travel often affects them. We travel back and forth. We're kind of in this together. So we ask the 9 counties surrounding our region. That also includes 3 counties in Western Washington. It's a pretty big study area. This research we've been conducting this research for decades now. We used to do this as a survey, a decennial survey, or a survey that we would do once a decade. In the mid-2010s, we switched to doing a smaller survey about every 2 years in order to make sure that we are capturing more recent data to better follow trends. Another thing that it helps us do is it helps us lower the stakes of conducting the survey in a year that is uncharacteristic or unusual. So to give you an example, imagine what would happen if you were conducting a survey once every 10 years, and the survey was planned for that 10 years was planned to be conducted in 2020. It was an interesting year, and it's good that we had that information, but it's hard to generalize a survey in a year like that to capture what's going on all the time. So this helps us, these continuous surveys helps us kind of mitigate that risk. It also helps us to make continuous improvements. We learn things each time we do a survey, things that we could have done better, newer questions that we can ask. So, sorry, I've been warned.
Councilmember, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Tony Carr.
While you're making that change, I just wanted to ask, smaller survey meaning smaller in terms of the numbers?
Yes.
Or, okay, not smaller in terms of the questions?
Yes, Chair, committee members, it is a smaller survey each year. I'll have a slide that kind of talks about how those numbers, what that means in terms of different surveys. But and one thing that by doing surveys every couple of years, even with a smaller size, as travel trends tend to kind of stabilize, we hope to be able to combine survey years so that we may not be getting as many households as we did when it was every decade, but with the time period being shorter, we can combine a couple of years to get a sense. But yeah, there's a
Stay
trade.
the same, though.
Yeah. So there's a trade-off. But yeah, thank you. Great question. Any other questions before I? Okay. Yeah, I mean, feel free to ask me any questions. So this is a survey of households. The invitation to participate goes to households. And in those households, we ask the household to provide trip information or travel information about each person within that household. This includes information about what trips they took, where they went, what mode they took, in other words, whether it's bus, car, bike, or whether they walked, what time of day. We also ask about the vehicles they used. Did they use a combustion engine? Did they use a hybrid vehicle, an electric vehicle? As mentioned earlier, we asked them about the demographics and characteristics of their households to understand how that affects their travel needs. We ask information about some of the costs embedded within their trip. So if they are taking a bus, we ask how many transfers did you have to make? We ask them information about, do you have free parking? Do you pay for parking? What's that like for you? As mentioned earlier, this 2-year survey also, it does allow us to make some periodic improvements. One recent improvement that we're going to be implementing in this survey is we're going to ask questions about transportation insecurity, which is basically the idea that people, they are facing barriers to trips they want to make. There are trips that they might not be able to make because of a lack of resources. So we are starting to ask these questions with the understanding that if we want to understand the transportation needs of people across the region, we need to ask them about the trips that they didn't make or that they were unable to make, as well as the trips that they did make.
Councilmember Johnson?
Quickly on that point.
Yeah.
Is this then a baseline that we can set for the future, or is there information in the past, although we haven't surveyed that kind of information, but, or is there anything that's been asked in the past that could correlate to it at all? I just think this is a very good baseline, if nothing else.
Yeah, Chair, committee members, that's a very good question. I think this is the first time I think we've been as intentional and detailed in asking those questions. So some of these questions I think that deal with transportation insecurity would be captured by previous surveys, but I don't think we've captured all of it. So yeah, I think this might be, for those questions, this might be a baseline year, as you're saying. To get into that a little bit more and the whole idea of using this to look at how things are changing over time, we do have to be careful that we improve the survey so that we are getting new information and we are sending out a better survey. But we also want to be able to compare trends over time. So we want a lot of the questions to be similar over time so that we can see how it's changed. But when adding new questions, that is an opportunity to sort of set a new benchmark and not have to worry about it not being able to, not worrying about the survey kind of being broken off from the trend. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well, but yeah, this will be the first time we've dived into that in such detail. Another change is we are sampling group quarters this time around. So group quarters, as folks probably know, things like dorms, things like group homes, things like nursing homes. In the past, we've sampled households. This time, we're going to expand that, and we're going to start asking people who are living in some in group housing. So. This gets back to the question that was asked earlier. So this time, our goal is to get 4,500 households. That is around 1% of the households in the study area. You can see some of the surveys we've taken in the past. In 2019 and 2021, we asked about, I think we got about between 7,900 and 8,000 households. In 2023, we did 3,700. Those 2019 and 2021 were part of this new sort of smaller 2 to 3 year survey, but we did try to get a bigger sample for a couple reasons. One, we were kind of kickstarting this after a last survey of 2010, so we wanted a bigger survey for that first 2 year. And then 2021, we had some resources to ask for more households, and also 2021 was kind of an important year to kind of see how we were emerging out of COVID. So. And then again, we hope to also, with these smaller numbers, we hope to be able to combine multiple years so that we can also get a larger sample size if we're willing to look over a longer period of time. There are three basic steps to each of the survey waves, including this one. In the first one, we have a planning stage where we work with some stakeholders. We work with our consultants to determine what kind of information we're going to get from this survey. So we design the survey. We also come up with a sampling plan. At this stage, we also look at lessons we've learned from some of these previous, more recent waves. We also begin recruiting households during this phase, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple slides. In the data collection phase, we have participants fill out either a phone survey. They can go online and fill out like a travel diary or a survey there, or they can also use a smartphone app called OurMove. And then in the final phase is when we have the consultants kind of clean the data for us, format the data. We also do a step here called weighting, which is where we take, and in that process, we try and make the data reflect what's going on across the region more accurately. We also try and correct for any imbalances we have in the survey. And then the final phase, we analyze the data, and we also make it available or do research on it, make it available for our summaries of it available to planners, to the transportation planning community, and to people out in the public. Outreach is a really important step in making sure that we get those 4,500 households. So we want to make sure that the materials are accurate, that they're transparent, and that they convey the legitimacy of the project. We also want to make sure that when we reach out to participants, we're reducing barriers that people traditionally have faced and in participating, and we want to encourage participation in a way that represents the makeup of our region. So some of the things we've done this is we've tried to make, in this round, we've tried to make the materials more plain language. For instance, some of you might remember we've often branded this as the Travel Behavior Inventory or TBI Household Survey, maybe not the most intuitive name. So this time we're experimenting with using Our Daily Trips as the title of this. That's how we're describing it in the materials. We also want to make sure that we provide the survey in multiple languages. And we want to make sure we're providing technical support. So there's a help desk people can call in. We also provide incentives to people for taking this to compensate them for the time that they spend. People are, they're spending time on this. So we provide, usually it's gift cards. People also have the option this year of, instead of getting a gift card, of donating that incentive to some organizations. So we also we're including support letters from the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Transportation, as well as the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of DOT, for those folks that are getting the survey in Wisconsin. We also, to make sure that we are capturing or surveying people who are often in underrepresentative, who are often underrepresentative in these surveys. We're doing things like oversampling certain geographies, and we also have done some targeted outreach campaigns. That's sort of been one of the things too about doing these phases that we've tried to do is use this, use the fact that we're doing these frequent surveys and learning for it to find ways in which we can get participation. Make sure we're surveying people that are often underrepresented in these surveys. In the recruitment process, we send out an invitation letter providing instructions for folks on how to participate in the survey. We also give them online instructions on how to sign up. The letter also includes signatures from the project manager, those letters of support from the DOT that I mentioned, as well as information about what the incentives are. So that's the letter that goes out to households based on addresses, a sample of household addresses. We follow up about a week later with a postcard that's just a reminder to them and also reiterates some of that sign-up information. And then when folks respond to these invitations by, first of all, filling out a survey that where they provide information about their household. and the vehicles that they're going to be using for travel. They also, at that point, they choose, do I want to participate in the phone survey? Do I want to participate in the online survey? Or do I want to participate using the app? For us, the app is a preferred method because we capture more data with that. The app it gets 7 days of data in real time, whereas with the other methods, we're only getting 1 day of data from the household. So this is an image of what the app looks like. Households download the app for each adult participating in the survey. The app captures their travel data, and much of the information in the survey is automatically recorded with the smartphone. The app also follows up each trip with a survey that allows them to fill in some details that we're not just getting from the app. Also, there's a daily survey at the end. This app is only to be used by adults. You have to be 18 to use it. Information about travel that children make is filled out by an adult in the household. This image provides an example of what this Our Move app looks like. We see here that the app has recorded a trip, and then any additional details that we can't get from the app, like why did you make the trip, what mode did you take, it's followed up with a trip survey. There's also an option for people to go into those trips and make edits or revise something if how the app captured the trip wasn't right, or if they want to edit something. And then finally, again, getting to the timeliness of this survey is going to be going out February of 2026 through February 2027. We send it out in waves. And then we should be getting the data in May of 2026. And then the next survey in 2028 is going to be on a similar schedule. Apologies, I think that May should be 2028, but I'll follow up on that. So that's one of the reasons why we're presenting to you today is just so these are going to go out to thousands of households in order to kind of get that 4,500 target. And so you might start hearing people ask about the survey, what it's about. If you get any questions, please feel free to contact us. We will often follow up. We can often follow up or contact the person or provide you with information about how to respond. And the main contact person would be Jonathan Ehrlich. He's the project manager of this. He's been doing this for a number of years, so he's gotten good at it. And thank you for the chance to present, and I'm here for any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Chambliss? No.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. I'm curious about the time frame of the survey.
Mm-hmm.
And why that time period is picked, or does it matter what time of the year the survey is done in terms of the types of people that are writing?
Yeah, Chair, committee members, that's a good question. We try and do it over the course of a year because the travel behavior and the types of trips people make really changes. So for instance, some big things that we're trying to capture is we want to make sure that we include the school year in the survey. So we want to make sure that we capture summer travel too and how that changes. So we send them out kind of in waves across the year. In terms of like when the survey starts up, a lot of that is dependent upon kind of procuring and kind of get everything planned and getting all the materials ready. So that's why we're starting in February, for example. But we do try and go over the whole course of the year, and we don't just. The other thing too about doing it throughout the course of the year, our consultant is giving us a lot of information about what the response rate is, and also breaking down how people are responding according to demographic factors and comparing that to census data. So we kind of get a heads up, like we have a big sample of these types of households, but we're not really representing the region here. So it allows us to we try and adjust within the survey as well too. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Obishaka.
Yeah, just curious, sir. The recruitment process, the sheet you showed us, I'm curious to know, do you have it in different languages, Spanish, Hmong, and all that, or is it just English for those who do not speak?
Yeah, Chair, committee members, let me say, I think that's a great question. I think we've got the languages that I thought we had a slide.
That one.
Yes, okay, okay, yeah.
Thank you, yeah. So we've tried to look at the demographics of the region and choose this languages that are most commonly or more characteristic of our region. So those languages that we picked or chosen are tailored to our region. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it does, thank you. I didn't see that.
Okay, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this question is about trusting government
Yes.
to track them on an iPhone or
Yeah.
otherwise in this moment of time that we're living in.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I would feel comfortable with that as a white woman living in the burbs right now. So, how do we factor in the stuff going on around us that we don't control while we're still trying to gather data and, gain people's trust? And even if all of the things that weren't going on around us here in this region right now, which are concerning, even just people calling you and saying, download this app and we'll give you a
Yeah.
little bit of money. And these are like red flags that people are telling you, oh, be careful what you're doing there because it could be a scammer. So
Yeah.
how do you factor in, you just have to go get more people if you get declines and keep people pushing back? Or have we had anything like this before might be my best question.
Yeah, committee members and chair, that's a great question. We have noticed it is a challenge. We've noticed that over time, surveys in general and government surveys participation has been declining. The response rates are going down. One way that we try and deal with it is trying to put intentionality behind the materials that we send out. So we do try and brand it as not just the Metropolitan Council, but we also have the letter of support from the Minnesota Department of Transportation and then to our neighbors over in Wisconsin as well. We put out information to let people know how we're using this data. And, we're kind of hoping that the fact that we're really we're doing it so that we can provide, a more responsive transportation system to folks. We, provide contact information so people can call. I don't get a lot of the calls since Jonathan's a project manager, but during one of the previous waves, I did get a call one day when he was out from a woman who had said, this looks like a really good survey and I'm really interested in participating in this survey. I just want to make sure that it's really what it says it is. So she independently looked up, how do I contact the Metropolitan Council outside of those materials? And called us. So I think it's a challenge. I don't know that I have an answer to it other than to say that we try and be transparent about what it is and why we're using it. We try and do public affairs campaigns and also, again, by doing the survey throughout the year, how many letters we send out to get those 4,500, it does depend upon the factors that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Madam Chair, I get it. And it's going to be harder to do, I think is the synopsis of what you said. And I would say any wing of political thought right now doesn't trust government right now.
Yeah.
The far right and the far left. So I think what you're doing is great. I'm not even sure letters from officials in government and offices and yada yadas is going to make anyone feel better. And again, these times we're living in. But we have to do this work, and the different methodologies you're using are good, and putting it throughout the year and keep going. And I do like the balancing and checking to make sure that we're getting results from across the region. So I'm all for this. It'll be curious. I don't know if I'll be on this council anymore, but it'd be interesting to come back at the end of it to see how this part of it went.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, committee members, you're absolutely right. And I think there are some things outside of our control, and so I think we've kind of focused on the things that we can control in the messaging. I think one other thing too is that there are a lot of other metropolitan planning organizations doing this work, and I think over the years since I've been here, we've done a better job in our modeling and in our research in making sure that we reach out to them. And Our consultants have worked with a lot of them, and so there's also a lot of information sharing going on right now about like exactly that, like what are we seeing, what's working, what's helping. So we're doing some testing too, kind of as we go. So yeah, we're very interested in seeing how it goes as well. But
Well, just lastly, if Chicago or Portland or any of those are doing these tests right now, they'd be great peer regions to find out how they're suffering through it, so.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Executive Director Carlson.
Yeah, I was just going to remind committee members that about a year ago, we presented the 2023 results. So Brandon Whitehead went through sort of what we saw 2019 through 2023. We actually did that as a two-part presentation, January 13th, 2025 and March 10th, 2025. Those presentations to you sort of show the end product of this research. And, we're hoping for a good response. We were able, between 2019 and 2023, to get combined around 20,000 respondents. We think our methods will deliver that. Every year feels like a different set of challenges of what we're facing, but certainly trust in government faced its share of challenges in 2021 and 2023. So onward we go.
All right, additional Councilmember Tony Carter, then Tyrone Carter.
Thank you. First of all, I don't want to forget that I'm much, much happier to be asked about my daily trips than my travel behavior, because that's misbehaving. And secondly, I'm wondering about if you can just talk a little bit about the efficacy of the 1 day versus the 7 day. Are you weighting that differently in terms of the travel patterns that you're seeing in a 7-day report? And lastly, is it important that there's fidelity to all 7 days reporting? Are the results discounted? If not, because I'm just wondering what kind of fidelity you would have in that regard.
Yeah, Chair, committee members, good question. Part of the weighting process kind of helps to deal with that 7-day versus 1 day. In fact, the use of multiple methods does add a lot of complexity to that weighting, but that is what helps us to basically kind of weight those days and try and we can look at the data for each individual day, but we can also use the weighting process to try and figure out, to get more information about maybe like a typical weekday. So we try and factor that in. I don't know, I will follow up to see what happens if somebody taking the online survey doesn't fill out every 7 days. I don't know off the top of my head if how we handle that. I imagine that's through the weighting, but I can follow up with you on that.
But it is interesting that you are looking at patterns then when you have those 7 days, as opposed to just counting the 7 days the same against a 1 day report?
Yeah, we have the option, I think, of doing both. I think if we wanted to say, like if we wanted to put out a report that said, on a typical work day, or where people are maybe more likely to commute, this is what it looks like. But we also have the available for people to sort of break that down by day of the week, at least for those people that are filling out the 7 days. So.
And thank you. If there's any follow-up on what you do with those that don't fill out the whole 7 days, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I will look into that. Thank you very much.
Right, Councilmember Tyrone Carter.
Yeah, I was wondering if you considered offering maybe like a fare incentive, so I complete the survey to get a fare ticket.
Oh. Chair, committee members, I don't know that we have.
I did a survey years back, and we were able to get funded, and we offered a financial incentive for completes, and then our rate went up.
So that would be like a fare card?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll check on that. That's, if we haven't, that would be something to consider. Thank you. Yeah.
Madam Chair, there's an important cousin of this survey is the transit onboard survey that we do periodically. It also is intercept-based travel. Unlike this one, it's actually the surveyor is on board helping, interviewing customers about the transit trip that they're making. This is the big picture of all the travel in the region. That is more focused on our transit system, but both are instrumental in conclusions about how people use the transportation system that we offer.
right, any additional questions, comments? All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, and I forgot, there's one thing I forgot to mention. Can I just, thank you. One thing too that's new is that, so we've done this survey. This year, the Minnesota Department of Transportation, they are also trying to develop some tools to analyze the impacts of projects as a result of the greenhouse gas legislation. So this is the first time, so the Minnesota Department of Transportation is doing a similar survey. It's a separate project, separate budget, but it's the same consultant, and they are modeling a lot of it after what we're doing so that we can, so we're kind of doing some leveraging and also look at service. So that's exciting. I forgot to mention that, and I'm sorry to, hope I wasn't breaking protocol, but the exciting first year, there's going to be a statewide too, similar, so thank you.
No worries, no breaking protocol, it was fine, absolutely fine, we want the information. So, all right, any other final questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Appreciate it. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, with that, we can be adjourned.